What's going on, all you Minties? Uncanny Omar here from Near Mint Condition, and join me today for an overview of the newly printed Usagi Yojimbo Special Edition box set from Fantagraphics. So, let's get started. Before getting started, a huge thank you to Fantagraphics for sending us a copy of the Special Edition box set. So here we have the new printing of this box set. I've talked about how one of my biggest purchases on the channel was the out-of-print original box set. This is the hardcover edition. Fantagraphics at one time stated that they were never going to reprint them, but here we are. So lucky you all that this box set got reprinted. So I'm going to do a comparison here in a little bit, but I did want to take a look at the box here, the slipcase. So on the back here, talks about the first decade of Stan Sakai's masterpiece, the bonus material that is included in here, and the retail price of $100. And oh, that is an adorable picture of Usagi. He looked a little bit different towards the beginning of this story, and here are the hardcovers, what the spines look like. But let's do a quick comparison to the original printing. So here to the left is the original printing of the box set. This is the one that I spent way too much money on after it went out of print because, well, I never thought they were reprinted. But it does have a different picture than the new special edition. As a matter of fact, it doesn't say special edition anywhere here. On the back side, it pretty much gives you the same information as the new printing, except it says the word featuring and including the retail price $100. It hasn't gone up at all. And then you have the logo right there, Usagi Yojimbo, the special edition, down here. And so different artwork again on this other side of the slipcase. This one I think being from the Dragon Below Conspiracy. Probably one of the best stories in here. And the spines. So the spines are a little bit different, the way that they are designed. We have volumes 1 and 2 up here in the original printing, and we actually have the Special Edition 1 and Special Edition 2 here. And Fantagraphics old logo and the newer logo down there. Usagi is a lot bigger here than in this printing. I kind of prefer this look to it. But as far as the dimensions of the slipcase, they are almost identical. The original printing is just a little bit taller, in case you couldn't tell from that angle. The books themselves are just a little bit taller as well. As far as the pages though, they look to be about the same dimensions, maybe just a little bit bigger in the original printing. And we'll be doing a comparison to the original printing, the internal artwork here in a little bit. But first I wanted to talk about the design of the books here. So here is volume 1 and volume 2. I love that. That is really cool. Both of them together like this make one amazing epic scene. And then the back of the books. I wish they had done something different for the back, but this looks really cool. It's a really cool epic scene. Not that they did anything cool in the first printing. As a matter of fact, the covers are identical in the first printing, and there's nothing on the back covers. So at least with this printing, they had a little bit of fun. But let's go ahead and look at volume 1, not that one, this one, and talk a little bit about Usagi. So Usagi Yojimbo, I've done a few videos on this particular character, and if you've watched the channel, you know how much I love this character. Not just one of my favorite anthropomorphic characters, but one of my favorite comic book characters of all time. There's an introduction by Stan Sakai in the very first volume here. Why a rabbit? And introduces us to the idea of why he decided to make a story about this Ronin warrior a rabbit instead of a human being. I thought that was a really cool introduction, and it goes deep into the idea of just sketching out this little bunny. Kind of reminds me a little bit of what Eastman and Laird were doing with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And it all kicks off with this story here from 1984. So the way this book is printed, it does release the stories in chronological order. Unlike the colored versions, the Origins, they don't go back and pick and choose which of the stories are the best. They go back and give us a chronological reprinting of these particular stories in the way that they were originally printed and published. So that's what you're getting. It's like you were going to the comic book store and picking up the Albedo Anthropomorphics #2, which is where he first appeared. which were just a collection of course, an anthology of different anthropomorphic animals. And then eventually he ended up getting his own series. So if you're not familiar, or if you haven't seen any of the videos on Usagi Yojimbo, then I can give you a quick little premise as to who he is. So Usagi in Japan means rabbit, and Yojimbo is like a bodyguard. So I guess you could say that this could translate to rabbit bodyguard. However, Usagi is his name, so it's Miyamoto Usagi. So it would be more like bodyguard Usagi would be the exact translation of this character. This is all written and drawn by Stan Sakai and has been one continuing story since 1984. He owns the IP, he owns everything about Usagi Yojimbo. He's one of the earliest examples here in America of a creator-owned comic. And a lot of people look to him for guidance. A lot of new creators that are trying out to create their own properties look for someone like Stan Sakai as a guide and mentor. Here, let's skip some to show you the evolution of the artist too, because you will see a change in his art. So all of this takes place during the Edo period of Japan. After losing his lord in battle, Usagi decides to become a ronin. So following the way of Bushido, just learning and protecting those people that he meets throughout his adventures. That's really it. That's the basic premise of Usagi. He's just a ronin, which means a masterless samurai that travels the land of Japan and helps those people in need and tries to do the right thing as well as learn as much as he can. So this first volume has 584 pages. Let's look at the second volume. Now, before we look at book number 2, I did want to give a shout out to Organic Price Books for sending us a copy of this slipcase box set. So this is one that they donated for a giveaway that's happening on September 18th. It's a live show, so if you're interested in winning this wonderful box set, don't forget to come back to the channel at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on September 18th for our live giveaway. It's going to be a contest. People can enter by just watching the show and answering some questions. And all you have to do is be a subscriber and like the video. So let's get back to this overview. And here is volume 2. And both volume 1 and 2 collect the first 7 volumes of Usagi Yojimbo. So actually, I think this one here has an introduction by Stan Lee. So Stan Lee does an introduction of the character, of who he was, and meeting Stan Sakai, because he was a letterer. So when I say that he does everything in this comic, I mean he does everything. So the first 7 volumes were published by Fantagraphics, and volumes, of course, were collected editions of the single issues. So eventually the rights went over to Dark Horse, and he started publishing books. So all of this takes place before this book right here, the Usagi Yojimbo Saga Volume 1, which has been recently reprinted late last year. But if you want a more chronological look at the story of Usagi, don't forget to check out that reading order that I did. But again, this is what the artwork looks like. Through these pages, you get to meet all these characters that kind of travel with him. Sometimes they're enemies, sometimes they're allies. But this is where they first meet, such as the character of Gen, Tomoe, she appears through here, Murakami Genosuke, Kitsune, all these characters that play a bigger role in his life later on appear here. And since it's all written and drawn by Stan Sakai, he does so much world building. So the things that he did in volume 1 and 2 of this play a bigger part later on and come back and sometimes almost haunt Usagi with some of the things, some of the choices that he had made in the past. But one of my favorite things about this series is just the small amount of detail that goes into each of these stories. And I'm not just talking about the artwork. The artwork is beautiful. The clothing, the tools, the weapons that they use. The amount of research that goes into these stories, though, is what I'm talking about. Just how, even though it's an anthropomorphic rabbit traveling through this era in Japan, just how true to life this was if you do any kind of historical research. I think like most people my age, when I was huge into anime, I was big into the Japanese culture in my 20s and trying to learn as much as I could. And man, the stories that he tells in here are just so astounding. And yeah, very true to the way of the samurai and Ronin. So even though he's a Ronin, and I know that's name sometimes means it could be disgraceful, in these particular stories, there is this balance of respect and disrespect for him. And you'll see what I mean when you go and read these. There are a series of flashbacks here. Yeah, this is such a wonderful story, and one that I highly recommend. And while it's in print, I strongly recommend getting these hardcovers. There were soft covers released, and I believe this is the design for the soft covers is the way that they looked here, because I remember them having a red spine, whereas the original ones had a blue one. Now, it is all in black and white, with the exception of the covers, and let's go over there. Yeah, right here. So all the covers are collected in the back. You didn't get any extras in the first volume, but everything is back here in the second volume. This volume has 578 pages. And we're going to do a comparison to the first printing here in a little bit. Here's the interview with Stan Sakai about creating the character when he was doing the lettering for Sergio Aragones. And now, let's compare the volumes really quick. Now, we've already established that they have different covers, but the bookend design is identical. It's a little bit greener, maybe in the newer printing. This has a flatter finish to it in the newer printing, the silver, where it looks a little glossier and slicker in the original printing. Here, you can tell better with this picture right here. You see how this has a platinum look to it in the first printing. This just has a flatter tone and finish to it. But Usagi's a lot darker and bolder here in the new special edition printing. This looks to be identical, with the exception of the paper quality they're using in the new printing. I thought I felt that right. It looks like it's thicker paper than the original printing. Again, it has a platinum, almost chromium finish to it, whereas this has a black bold finish to it. So yes, one thing I'm noticing right away is the paper quality. And the paper quality in the newer printing is thicker than the original printing. The other thing I'm noticing is the blacks are a lot bolder and a lot darker than in the first printing. Let's get a lot closer. That looks a lot better than my first printing. The blacks really stand out. Again, to kind of give you an idea of the differences here. And even though they do get a lot darker throughout the first volume, still the newer printing, those blacks really stand out. It's really not that big of a difference, but I mean, if I had a choice, of course, I would purchase the new printing. Now let's look and compare volumes 2. That same platinum finish look to these pages here at the very beginning, like the bunny right there, compared to the new printing. Again, in this volume, it's just the blacks being bolder in the new printing than the original printing. Not that big of a difference here, though. Let's look at the colored pages. Now, in these pages, they look identical. The colors, the tones, everything looks the same, even ones with lots of black in them. Now, as far as the paper quality, it is this glossy paper. The newer printing feels like it's just a little bit thicker, and you could probably tell in the black and white art when you can see the artwork from the other side on the original printing, not so much so in the new printing. As far as the build of the book, it is sewn binding, not much of an eye, but then again, there's not that many spread pages in here. However, compared to that original printing, look at that big eye. That book has been loved. I must have read this thing so many damn times. But honestly, the inner spine looks a lot better. The eye's a lot bigger than the new printing. However, I didn't have a problem with it laying over, whether it's towards the beginning of the book or in the back. As a matter of fact, I think my first printing, the way it lays over, it tries to shut itself a little bit once you get towards the front or the very back. But that, as they say, is that. If you're interested in purchasing this box set, don't forget to check out our sponsor, cheapgraphicnovels.com, your online home for brand new graphic novels and collected editions up to 50% off cover price. They pride themselves on packaging your books so they arrive safely in an excellent condition, as well as prompt and helpful service. Check out the bargain deals for up to 90% off cover price. CGN is excited to announce that they are now taking pre-orders. They're making it easier for you to ensure that you don't miss out on the hottest releases. CGN is currently running a special promotion for you Minties. If you're a first-time customer, let them know that you were referred by Near Mint Condition at the checkout, and you'll receive a credit for free shipping on your next order. This promotion is valid for U.S. customers only. Cheap Graphic Novels, your source for the hottest books with the kind of deep discount and quality shipping and customer service that will keep you coming back for more. And that was the content and build of this newly released box set. Let me know in the comments down below if you picked it up, if you're thinking about picking it up, if you've never read Usagi, if you have any more questions about Usagi Yojimbo. I've also done several videos on Usagi Yojimbo if you want to search the channel, and we have different playlists, such as the reading order playlist, where I got to do the reading order of Usagi. Again, this was the Uncanny Omar. Thank you all so much for watching. Don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe, ring that bell for notifications. All that helps with our YouTube algorithm and the channel keep growing. And more importantly, everyone, stay healthy, stay safe out there, and much love.